Hello folks and welcome. So I have another video that was requested by a user, a subscriber, that wanted to know a little bit about Gimp. Gimp is like Photoshop. Could you make a video regarding senior friendly for knowing a little bit about how to use Gimp? Well, I'll go even further. I'll just make mention of this for any user for that matter. I'm going to show you just a couple of tips. Gimp can be quite a learning curve, but I'm going to get you started today. If you notice that icon there, that was converted from a JPEG. I also used the same to make an icon out of it. And I'm going to take that icon and I'm going to put it down on my panel bar as a web-based icon a little bit later, showing you how to do all of that stuff using Gimp. Gimp is like Photoshop. GNU image manipulation program. I'm filming in 1920 by 1080, and you can adjust your YouTube player accordingly. You are watching this on Linux for Seniors. If you see a floating icon of a person there, you can click that to subscribe. Over 270 videos and all kinds of tips and tricks. In my About section, I make mention of the fact that Linux is for any age. So with that said, I'm going to basically introduce you to Gimp if you do not know too much about that particular application. How to convert images and even make web-based icons. Or icons for that matter, any icon. Like you can even use for standard icons. So I'm going to close that and I'm going to actually delete that. Oh no! Actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate that for you a little bit later. So GNU image manipulation program. It's a mouthful. It's a funny name, but more importantly, it's a very powerful program or application. You do get it from Software Manager, and it also comes with lots of options. So I'm going to just type in GIMP, and it doesn't matter which one of these I click on. I can get both of these under the same screen. So you have the system package. Even though it's in a foreign language, you can just install that and then install the language packs. So you normally get a post-it note on your panel bar if it requires language packs. But more importantly, this is 2.10.30-1. The other version is Flatpak, and that is 2.10.36. A little bit bigger. Choose your flavor. You also have lots of options. Extras, in other words. Add-ons, some people call them. Here's the animation package. You can see mine's not even installed. All right, I'm going to close this now, and I'm going to open up the official program. GIMP. Now, before I continue, I want to basically just say a couple of things. First of all, you don't learn this thing in 5 minutes. This is something that takes sometimes years to learn all the bells and whistles. It took me a long time to do a lot of things with it. If you're an older subscriber of mine, because this is not the first channel on YouTube, my previous channel, just to give you an example, ran for many years and it had 450 videos on it. My current channel, Linux for Seniors, has about 270. The 450 videos plus the 270 that I did for this channel are all done with GIMP for thumbnails. I also use this tool to make icons, and I can convert images into icons, and I'm going to do that for you today. I'm going to change a JPEG into a PNG, for instance. We can also color things, add text. There's lots of tools in here, folks. I don't want you to become overwhelmed by looking at this, especially if you're a new user. Now, there's user's manual online, user manual. There's also lots of other tutorials out there online. You know, you can just basically go browse on the internet and find all kinds of information on GIMP. GIMP is used by a lot of professionals also. So it's a funny name, yes. GNU image manipulation program. Again, it's very similar to Photoshop. Very versatile in my book. So let me open up the file manager. So Mary is our user for today. It's just a made-up name. And Mary has some pictures. You can see them in here. I have the larger thumbnails turned on. You can also reduce, increase in size, but that's another video for itself. And hopefully you've seen some of those. because I'm going to incorporate some of the stuff that I've been doing in the past on some of the other videos for Mint into also Gimp. We're going to take one JPEG and we're going to convert it. And we're going to also make an icon out of this. So I'm going to do the file and open. All right, so you can probably see that I have several hard drives here also, but go find your user, as in this case it's Mary, and Mary has those pictures stored right here. So I'm going to open this up, double click. First thing it goes to is the first image, or in this case it's one JPEG, and we're going to use the butterfly for our examples. I'm going to open this up, and this is going to require a conversion to red, green, blue, RGB. So I'm going to say yes to that. And now I have a nice working surface. Okay, so right now the tool that's turned on is Paintbrush, so I'm going to turn that off. So we just have the this tool here. And again, this is the Move tool, but it doesn't matter because I'm not going to use those right now. But again, there's lots of brushes and tools that you can use. So walking through here, we have filters. There are lots of them. I mean, a whole lot of them. And I'm going to use one when I get into this a little bit later to round the edges off and give it a back bevel and make an icon out of it that I can even use down here on the panel. Let's first talk about the image itself. We can see that's a 1024 by 720. And it's got a bunch of cryptic information. Don't focus in on everything at once. Do this very slowly. Take this one day at a time. But more importantly, you can practice. Get your own images. You can download stuff off the internet if you don't have any current digital images or stuff like that that you have saved. You know, there's lots of different images you can get off the internet. Save them in a folder. Throw them in your pictures folder like Mary did. All right, with that said, I'm going to click on Image. And we're going to talk about scaling first. Scale image, making it smaller, as an example. Now, how you read this box is this way. So there's a width and a height, up and down, side to side. They're in pixels currently. There's also other parameters. You also have a link in the middle of these two, and you can sever that link, and you'll see that symbol just being cut. I'm filming in 1920 by 1080. I would also recommend watching this on the biggest screen available to you, because a lot of times if you see this on a mobile device, the screens are way too small. All right, with that said, I am going to click that back so you can see they're connected now. Okay, so if I click that again, it disconnects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the top number, which is the width, to a different number. I'm going to go with 800. And it leaves the height at 720. But so the bottom set of numbers is the X and Y resolution in pixels per inch. I'm going to change that from 300 to 72. And as soon as I hit enter, since that is connected, it'll change the bottom number also. And then I'm going to scale it. All right, so as you can see, it's a little stretched, and maybe you like this, and maybe not so much. But more importantly, you can also undo. You're going to become probably very familiar with some of these keyboard shortcuts. If you have been watching some of my videos, I've also been educating people on how to use keyboard shortcuts just about anywhere in your system. Well, this is no exception also. So Control and Z will undo this. So I will use Control Zebra. Now we're back to where I was. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do Image, Scale, leave the connection point and use 800, and the bottom 720 will be converted to keep the quote aspect ratio, so it'll look similar to this image right here, except a little smaller. And I'm also going to reduce that to, again, 72 pixels per inch, and then scale it. Now the image is now smaller. If you need to view this a little bit bigger, then go to View, select Zoom Level, and you can currently see that dot is set to 100%. I can double it, triple it, and then go the other way. Now I'm going to take this JPEG that has been converted and save it into a PNG. And as a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it on the desktop. So your first inclining normally is to go to File and Save As. And you're going to say, well, I don't like XCF because that's what it got converted to. Remember, it asked me to convert that image? So I'm going to change that to a PNG. I'll leave the number 1. Instead of saving it in Mary's Pictures, I'm going to select Desktop. In other words, this surface area. But since I'm using XCF as my original image that I converted, this is not going to do that job. It'll give me an error. Extension mismatch. But however, if you read this statement, it says use file export to export to other file formats. So it's giving you a slight clue here of what's going on. So I'm going to hit OK and close the screen and follow that direction, which is File, Export. And you can see when I'm pointing my mouse pointer at it, it says export the image to various file formats such as PNG or JPEG. Now I am going to click in the name field and erase the JPG and type in PNG. And we're going to change the destination to desktop and hit export. I get a dialog box, and you'll get to know this after a while, but you know, as a new user, just keep the standard default settings. The compression layer is right here if you want to compress the image. It all depends on how sharp you want these. I'm going to do the export, and the image will appear over here because I'm sending it to the desktop. I may have to reduce this box slightly here so you can see it. So let's go take a peek at the original image from Mary's folder here. So that's the original, and that's the converted image. So I'm using a standard computer, standard tower computer. Normally on my videos, I will tell you if I'm filming on a laptop because I have several computers in my office and all of them are tower computers. It's very rare that I film on laptops, but I have done it in the past. So I'm using a standard keyboard and fairly standard mouse. It doesn't matter if they're wireless or wired products. So I'm going to click on that once. My file manager, Nemo, is set for double click, right? Hopefully you didn't change that. If you did, then this little trick is not going to work for you. I'm going to hit the space bar to get a preview of that butterfly. Otherwise, you'll have to double click on. Or if you single click, it'll automatically open this up. That'll be like doing it like this. And it'll automatically open this up in XViewer. That's not what I wanted. I wanted just to get a preview of that. So single click, spacebar to get a preview, spacebar to close. We're good to go. Right click, properties. 486 on the PNG, 235 on the original JPEG. So actually it grew in size. Image size on this is 800 by 563. That would be this image. So let's go take a look at the properties of the original. The original image, again, size-wise and image-wise. Comparing apples to apples, that was a bigger image, and that's a smaller image, obviously, on both width and height. But the file bits and bytes is different also. So far, so good? Okay. So one more time, image, scale image. View is view. It all depends on where you want to place this. You want it 100%, 200%, 400, 800, and blah, blah, blah. 1600 looks like it'll be pixelated, just to give you an example. Holding down the control key, scaling backwards. You may have seen some of my videos where I do this in the file manager. Well, guess what? You can do that on here too. Hold the control key while scrolling on your computer mouse scroll wheel. Now I'm going to close that and say no. I'm going to discard. And I'm going to take the original one JPEG and convert it into a icon that I'm going to use as a web-based icon on my panel. And this would be something that you can create from scratch, but I'm going to just use an image for this process because I can also create icons using this program or application. So let's open up one JPEG and convert it and then scale it. So a very common scaling factor when you're making icons are, I'll give you one example, a 64 by 64, 128 by 128. Those are just some examples. And they can go as small as 16 by 16. Usually those are too small and they become too pixelated for icons. But I'm going to use 128. However, I'm going to sever the link and make the bottom end of this 128 also. So it'll make a square. And then I am going to change that from 300 pixels per inch to 72 and hit enter and leave the link here on the bottom end. And then I'm going to scale the image. Then I'm going to walk over to filters, and as I pointed out earlier, there's lots of tools, and I don't want you to become overwhelmed with these things because, again, this is something you don't learn in 2 minutes. You take time when you learn these things and experiment if you wanted to play with some tools. I'm going to show you how to make a quick icon out of this. If you go to Decor, under Round Corners, all right, you will see this says script-fu :round corners with an edge radius of default 15 with a shadow offset of X and Y. You can just leave the defaults and hit OK. Now you can see rounded, maybe I'll zoom in just a little bit more. I'll go to 200. It may look a little pixelated to you in this size because it is small. Again, I made that very small. The current image size is 158 by 158 because it's taking into the account of the shadow. Now I'm going to remove this white background just to leave the icon. I'm not changing anything about the size. I'm just blowing this up so you can see it a little bit better. I will go back to 100%. Okay, and I'll leave it there. Then I'm going to walk over to here where it says opacity and turn off this eyeball. This is the symbol of a grid, which represents no background. That's what I want if I'm going to do an icon that has a shadow on it, and more importantly, it has rounded edges. Then I'm going to walk over to here, and I'm going to do an export as. And we are going to call that one test 1, PNG. And I'm going to save it to Mary's desktop. Normally, if you are creating and making icons, whether you do it from photos or you are creating it from scratch, which I also do, save them into a folder that you're going to use later and don't rename that folder once you use icons from that folder. You may have seen several of my videos. I make that recommendation constantly. When you start using any icons in the system, you need to be consistent when you put these icons into a folder and don't move that folder. But for our purposes today, I'm going to save it to the desktop. This is not a good example, but I'm doing it just for the purpose of showing you that you can use a quick image. Other than that, I would move this directly into a folder that would be used by the system later, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to leave the defaults. It's going to place this thing right on the desktop, and you can clearly see the edges around it. Test 1 JPEG, again, this is somewhere I would cut this and move it into the file system. And you know, you may want to create your own folder called icons, place it in your documents folder, wherever, and once you start using one or more icons out of that folder, do not rename the folder, do not move the folder. Because once you start using icons out of a folder, it's a pointer. It points to that image if you're using it for an icon. So I'm going to make an icon out of this. I just did. Now what I'm going to do is minimize this now that I have the image already saved in PNG format. Are you familiar with this tool? If you're not, I have plenty of videos on web apps. These make web-based icons. You don't need any programming skills. Plus, I'm going to think of a website. How about Home and Garden? HGTV, I think they call it. All right, I'm going to just use a manual address. You can also cut and paste from web browsers. I have full videos on this on my YouTube site. www.hdtv, I think, I think that's what their website is. All right, so it doesn't have an icon. I can maybe find an icon online. Let's see if they have anything online. They do. But I'm not going to use it though. We're going to use this nice butterfly for this. So I'm going to do that by hitting Browse and go find Mary's desktop. And again, I would not be placing this on a desktop. I would put it in a different folder. But just for this purpose of demo, I'm using this icon directly from here to make things simple today. I'm going to select that icon. So I have all the elements in here. I have the name, the web address, the icon itself, navigation bar icon alike, and I'm going to do that. Whenever you create anything in web apps, you don't need to actually run it from here. This will now be available in my menu. I'll just type in HG and you can see it right here. Now you can see what it looks like in the Mint menu, and now you can see what it looks like on the panel. Okay, it's obviously a little small and it's hard to read, but it is still the butterfly nonetheless. And yes, this does go to home. I'm going to get rid of the privacy notice. It does go to HGTV. So I'm just giving you some examples of usage for GIMP just by making a quick web-based icons. All right, you can also color in here. So if you wanted to do new, what is the frame size you want? I'll just use 720 for instance. And I'll just do that. And I will use red just for my example. And I'll use the paintbrush. And then I'm going to pick something out of this menu here. I'll pick the bird. That's one. Then I'll pick something else. A star maybe. Or something like that. I'm just doing silly stuff. Okay? But more importantly, I just wanted to let you see the versatility of GIMP. You know, not only can you just convert images and then make icons, you know, or convert images to icons, you can also create your own. I just threw up a couple of things to play with it. There's lots of tools in here. There's lots of filters in here. I just showed you one. But more importantly, this is something that doesn't get learned in 2 hours. There's lots of tools up here. Some of them are magic tools. They pick things, select tools. Some things are text tools. Like that. You can also, I'll hit Control A to select the text. It puts bars through that, and I'm going to increase that. I'm just giving you some things to think about. Okay, and then of course you can save these images or export them, depending on what you're doing. There are lots of things in here that you can use GIMP with, and it always asks if you want to discard or save your work. But as you can see, I took one image, converted it from a JPEG to a PNG, and then I turned around and made an icon out of it, and it's sitting on my panel right now. And also in my Mint menu, sorry, wrong letters, HGTV. Now you can see what it looks like in the menu. I'll even toss it over here if you like, just to give you an example. So yes, you can do things like that rather easily using GIMP. Thank you for watching, folks.